Good day. I am speaking in the role of incident response lead for the following software supply chain ransomware incident at FinTech Bank. My purpose is to brief the senior leadership and the technical stakeholders on the response actions and the government's alignment with the ISO IEC 27001 guidelines. This incident originated from a compromised open source component embedded in a routine server update supplied by third-party maintainer. The payload established a covered backdoor, enabling lateral movement and culminated in a ransomware encryption of our critical systems. The attackers coupled and extorted with the threat of leak sensitive records. Operationally, FinTech faced service degradation, transaction failure, and reputation exposure. The encryption of key systems forced a controlled shutdown of several banking services. Transaction processing, customer service, and back office workflows were disrupted. Cost accrued from the emergency response and forensic work and service credits. Like the regulatory interactions, the reputational impact is material. Customer trust in confidentiality, integrity, and availability in the core intangible assets in a financial service, and this too was severely degraded. Risk assessment summary. Threat vectors. Third-party uh, software components were embedded with embedded backdoors, high likelihood of reoccurrence across ecosystems if SBOM and dependency hygiene remains weak. Assets as risk. Custom PII and financial data, payment systems, and internal communications and operational data lakes. Vulnerabilities: infrequent supply security validations, insufficient pre-deployment scannings, and gaps in EDR and SIEM coverage. Consequences: service unavailability, data compromise, and legal reputational penalties. Under this, the risk rating is high, and immediate priorities were to contain the evidence preservation and clean restoration from trusted backups and hardened identity parts with supply assurance uplift. Ethical, legal, and regulatory response. Ethical stance. Under this, the paying ransomware to sustain criminal ecosystem was not feasible, and therefore we agreed not to pay. Under this legal, regulatory, and context for Sri Lanka, we have identified that Computer Crimes Act number 24 2007 is engaged where unauthorized access and interference occurs, and evidence integrity and chain of custody are essential and should be prosecuted and be pursued. Personal Data Protection Act PDPA number 9 of 2022. If personal data is compromised, fintech must follow data breach handling principles, timely assessment, documentation, and appropriate notification in line with supervisory expectations. Regulatory oversight of Central Bank of Sri Lanka. As a regulated financial entity, Fintrust Bank should notify CBS promptly of material service disruption and security incidents following any sector circulars on incident reporting and resilience. Sri Lanka CERT engagement. Coordinate reporting to CERT to support national level visibility, advisory, and technical assistance. In light with the good practices of the incident handling, quarantine the affected hosts and networks, immediately isolate non-compromised servers, disable east-west traffic from implicated segments, and enforce temporary firewall blocks for suspected command and control domains and IPs. Credential damage controls, reset potential exposed credentials, revoke active tokens, and rotate secret keys, and temporarily reduce the privilege group membership. Kill switch for propagation paths. Disable the remote management services and suspected of misuse, and enforce the application allowing listing on critical servers. Block macros and script interpreters which are feasible. Sorry. Forensics preservation. Snapshots of affected VMs and disks can export memory captures prior to the eradication to maintain evidence value. Eradication and recovery. Golden image rebuilds. Reimage compromised systems from trusted baselines and do not restore system partitions from backups that could contain malware. Backup verification. Validate integrity and recovery of backups through offline checks and prior to restorations. Prioritize critical banking services and customer-facing portals. Patch and harden. Remediate vulnerable components. Remove unused packages and enable exploit mitigations and enforce secure configuration. Assurance gates require clean EDR scans and log-based acceptance criteria before bringing the system back into production. Heightened monitoring window. Maintain a contain and watch posture for a minimum of 30 days prior post restore to detect delayed persistence or any attempt of re-entry by the attackers. Communication strategy. Under this internal communication, establish a single source of truth where incident command channel provide schedule situation reports to senior management, technical and operational, legal compliance and custom service. Regulators and law enforcement coordinate with legals to determine the threshold for notifying CBSL and relevant supervisory bodies and document the timeline and content. Engage Sri Lanka CERT for technical coordination. If criminal prosecution is possible, maintain the chain of custody and documentation. Customers and public. Where the personal data exposure of prolonged service disruption is confirmed, issue concise issue concise notices describing what happened and what we are going to do about it, what FinTrust is doing now to provide a clear guidelines and protective steps. Strengthening access control. While incident management sits within the Annex A.16, effective response depends on robust identity control access controls across the enterprise. So under this, we have identified that strong authentication enforces multi-factor authentication for all users with phishing-resistant methods for admins and remote access, least privilege by design. Primary access management (PAM) enforce checks out workflows and session recordings as segregation of duties. Separate the production from test and segregate keys, secrets, and rapid credential rotations. Automate the rotations of credentials and secret keys, and invalidate the compromised third-party servers. Monitoring and detection enhancements. Endpoint detection and response (EDR) deploy enterprise-wide with behavioral analytics and tamper protection. Validate coverage for servers and workstations. Security information event management (SIEM) centralized logs for incident providers, EDR gateways and databases and cloud platforms. Build coordination rules for supply chain behavior. Threat intelligence and detection engineering. Subscribe to credible feeds, convert TTPs into hunts and detections. Network detection, inspect east-to-west traffic, baseline normal services to service communication and alert on anomalous data. Backup and pipeline monitoring, continuous verify the backup immutability and integrity, monitoring CI/CD for unsigned artifacts. Contractual and security obligations. Embed a minimum security requirement into vendor agreements, secure development practices, and vulnerability disclosure windows. Software bill of material validation requires SBOM from supplier components, scan dependencies for known vulnerabilities and malicious packages. Secure update channels, mandate code signing for all artifacts, verify signature prior to deployment, and resist build agents to minimal permission. Pre-deployment testing, gate releases with automated static dynamic releases and sandbox detonations for new and change packages. After service restoration, conduct a structured blameless review. What signals were missed, where did the escalation stall, and which controls worked, and how to embed learnings, update the playbook, and refine the severity matrix. Measurement closes the loop. Define recovery time point to objective. Obtain the mean time to detect as response. And the percentage of systems rebuilt from golden images. Forward plan and ISO aligned IR program. People and processes. Formalize an enterprise incident policy. Define roles and on-call roster. Establish a decision rights for shutdown and takeover. Technology uplift. Complete EDR and SIEM rollouts. Harden, then identify with PAM. Governance align reporting pathways with CBSL expectations and document PDPA breach handling steps. Also stay in sync with set guidelines. Assurance, quarterly tabletop exercises and semi-annual supply security assessments and continuous control monitoring. Approval 12 months resiliency program focused on EDL, SIEM expansion and detection engineering, PAM and zero trust identity and immutability and offline verified backups. Mandate supplier security upgrades, SPOM provision and signed artifacts, secure pipeline attention and incident cooperation with periodic third-party risk reviews. Adapt a formal incident governance charter. Visualize learning through post-incident reviews, update playbooks, and measure KPIs. Crossing from recovery to resilience, this incident is a watershed moment. The path forward is not merely to restore service, but to restore confidence in operations, in compliance, and in the security culture of Trust Bank. By executing this plan anchored in ISO incident management disciplines and aligned to Sri Lanka legal realities and driven by risk, we reduced exposure, accelerated response, and strengthened the trust our customers have placed on us. Thank you.